late reading, and I got no excuse actually. I pre-read this earlier in the day, and then life got in the way, and then it went out of my head when I came back somewhere around about 7:30, 8 o'clock this evening, and now it just came back to me. So I thought, oh, I gotta get online. So here we are. Without further ado, here we are. It's called All Things Must Pass. First quote is from Mark Twain. Hopefully everyone's heard of Mark Twain. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of fear. It's kind of ironic that we get this quote because for a good part of the afternoon, I was attending a Toastmasters pre-Gavel Club meeting. A Gavel Club is a Toastmasters club for young people under the age of 18. Anybody under 18 can join. And some of our members who got teenage kids had asked, could we start a Gavel Club? Well, today we had our very first meeting. We had a big crowd. And some of the things that were talked about was fear when you get up in front of people, and also nerves. And the truth is, everybody has nerves before they get up in front of people. It's just that some people are able to control them. If you don't have some kind of nerves before you go and do a public appearance, usually it's not a good appearance. That's only happened to me once. I had zero nerves whatsoever talking to a bunch of teenage kids, and it was awful. So anyway, there we are. All things must pass. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of fear. How about that? Whoops. And this is Ernest Holmes in This Thing Called You on page 13. The barriers between you and your greater good are not barriers in themselves. They are things of thought. Sometimes we think we can't do something, but in reality, when we get right down to it and we believe we can do it, guess what happens? We believe it. The next quote is from Raymond Charles Barker. He was actually, or one of his books was actually the subject of last month's readings at Creative Life Spiritual Center, the Sunday talks. Raymond Charles Barker wrote, Yesterday ended last night. And Ron Fox says, I like that, simple and to the point. He's saying we need to get on with our lives. If we keep looking back, we can't grow. But we all know that change can be difficult. True? If we don't let go of what doesn't serve us, guess what? We stay stuck where we are. Life moves on, but we don't. Then Ron Fox goes on to say, during a difficult period in my life, I couldn't decide how to proceed. I was in a bad situation, but letting go was scary. At the same time, holding on was uncomfortable. I was paralyzed with fear. A friend took me aside one day and talked to me about how every time we make a choice, we can learn from it. If we feel we've moved in the wrong direction, we usually can change course. Few decisions are irrevocable, and most of what we call mistakes are actually learning opportunities. Dark nights of the soul can be times of great opportunity, despite or perhaps because we feel lost during these periods. We can put our egoic concerns aside and realize there is a higher power available to us. We can turn from the outer world to our inner source. We can listen to what our hearts are saying. And Reverend Ron ends with a quote from Ramana Maharishi, who wrote, Surrender is giving oneself up to the original cause of one's being. Do not delude yourself by imagining this source to be some God outside of yourself. One source is within oneself. Give yourself up to it. if you follow the philosophy that, well, New Thoughts in general, the Science of Mind in particular puts forward, and pretty well most mystics in the world, and a good chunk of Hinduism believes that there's one source for everything, and that source is above and beyond everything. And if it's above and beyond everything, and it's greater than everything, and it's all there is, then everything is within it. So you are and I are expressions of it, which means that the power that's within us and flowing through us is this one source. And that's what we believe. It's what most mystics believe, or people of a mystical bent believe. And the mystics throughout the ages have said the same thing, whether it's Rumi, Trees of a Village, Owen of Norwich, or earlier, or some of the great philosophers. So bottom line is, we can always go internally and decide to call on that power. And the real key lesson here, because I've heard the other stuff quite a few times, the key lesson here is that when something happens in our lives and we don't like the result, instead of berating it or wishing it never happened or whatever, if we can look at it and say, what can I learn from this? Then you've made that experience that wasn't good in the first place. You've made it positive. And you've learned, when you learn from things, then you get to move forward in life. The only way really we learned a lot of things in life was by making mistakes, right? When we first started to, the only way you learned to walk was by falling down. And actually, when you walk now, you actually do fall forward, but you know how to not fall flat on your face. So we learn from our mistakes. It's a common expression. And this is what he's telling us here. And I'm going to end tonight. Just before I do that, I'm just going to remind you, our Creative Life Spiritual Center service is tomorrow at 11. That's 11 Central Time, USA. If you're in most of Europe, that will be 7 hours later. That will be 6 p.m. If you're in the UK, it'll be 5 p.m. If you're out on the West Coast, well, you can work out the time differences yourself. Reverend Lisa, my colleague, will be on at 9:15 in the morning. And I'll be back tomorrow evening. And remember, the affirmations are given to us to decide, how can I use this? Is this affirmation useful to me? If it is, let me use it. The late great Bob Proctor always said with an affirmation, the best way to get the most out of an affirmation is to write it down and speak it out loud as you do. Or maybe speak it out loud afterwards. And the reason was, he said, when you do that, you engage all three major modalities. You engage sight, sound, and touch, which makes sense to me because it covers most of our modalities. So today I turn within and listen to that still small voice. Today I turn within and listen to that still small voice. I recognize that the source of all my good is within me. I recognize that the source of all my good is within me. Remember, Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. The kingdom of God is within you. As I heed its call, I find peace and comfort. I am blessed. And he's talking about source here. As I heed its call, I find peace and comfort. I feel blessed. That's it for me for tonight. I am going to go to bed in the not too distant future, hopefully, and I'll be back tomorrow evening, hopefully at 5. I've got to work it into my schedule because my grandson has cajoled us to go visit him along with his parents and his partner and his brother and his brother's fiance tomorrow evening. So I've got to work this into my schedule. So I'll do my best for 5 o'clock, but who knows? But I guarantee you this, I will do the reading tomorrow. So just remember, when you make mistakes, instead of beating yourself up about them, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? This could be positive. What is a lesson here for me? And how can I use it to go forward? So until next time, Namaste.